A very warm welcome and good evening. I want to welcome you to this edition of Behind the Headlines this Wednesday, the 24th of May, 2023. My name is Charles Odongtho, your host, and this week we are going to be looking at the national budget. Government doesn't work without a policy. Government doesn't work without plans. Government cannot work without a budget, especially the annual budget. And the process is coming to an end. It starts, I think, from about September right up to December, through that time until Parliament passes it, which was done last week. They call it supplying. And we now know that the next financial year, 2023-2024, government will spend up to, is projected to spend 52.7 trillion shillings. Where are we going to get this money when we cannot collect even half of it? The economy is not doing well. There are a number of difficulties that government is facing. Some public servants say we are not being paid in time. Service providers saying we have been delayed to be paid. A lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, and some people say life is tough. We are hungry and we could get angry. To discuss all this, I have a panel, an illustrious one. Let me start from the extreme left. We have Honorable Herbert Tayebwa, MP Kashonji, in the Great Ankole region. You're most welcome back to the show, Honorable.
Thank you, Charles.
Next to him is a man who I think needs no much introduction, from east to central, and from Budadiri West to Kampala, and is the Secretary General of the FDC party, Honorable Nandala Nathan Mafabi. He is contesting for certain bigger things, he told me. Honorable Nathan, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Of course, you've forgotten I'm chairman of Bujusu Cooperative Union.
Yes.
The one which
BCU.
the one which produces the best coffee. And I'm asking my brother Tayebwa to give me his vote. I want to become a council member of ICPU. And definitely, if he makes me, I'll become the president of the institute so that I reach the upper place.
I see you putting on a green label. Have you crossed to DP?
No, today there were, is it mental issues? What was it at Parliament?
Mental health.
Mental health. I think for me. So they gave me. So
you don't know.
So I had to come to Parliament. It was for mental issues. Yes.
But Honorable Nandala, the other day we agreed that when you are talking about Arabica coffee in Bugisu, you should also mention it alongside Okoro, because your people are many in Zombo, and they get some of our Arabica coffee because we are not marketing it well that side, and they add to the one of Bugisu, and then they say that then Godba says it is all from Bugisu when some of it is from North.
In fact, those people are criminals, because that Arabic of Okoro is not like ours. Ours is top range. That is adulteration. In fact, we are looking for them and tell them you'll be arrested.
Next to Honorable Nathan is Honorable Omara Paul, MP Otuke County in Lango. Sits on the Budget Committee. You're most welcome back to the show, Honorable.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. Next we have Godba Tumushawe, Associate Director, GLIS, a current affairs commentator. He's a lawyer by profession, has taught many students in law at Makerere University. Godba, you're most welcome back to the show.
Great pleasure to be here. Good evening, our viewers.
And finally, Professor Sarah Sali, Dean, School of Gender and Women's Studies at Makerere University. You're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. And to you out there, kindly join us from wherever you are across the world through social media, on through the screens. If you want to join us, we are streaming live via YouTube, UBC Television Uganda, that's on YouTube. But you can also join us via our hashtag, UBC Behind the Headlines. That's on Twitter. Hashtag UBC Behind the Headlines. And if you want to send a message or a comment direct to a phone, use 0709602592. I will repeat that, 0709 602-592. 602592, that's on phone 0709 in order to join us, and we will incorporate your questions and comments and messages into the discussion. The earlier you send the message, the better. Let's start with the gentlemen who are on, especially guys who are MPs who are on the budget committee. You went through this budget almost 6 months plus, if I'm not mistaken. The assumption is that as people's representatives, and which is a process that also the Ministry of Finance does, that you gather views on the needs for the next financial year based on the passing year from all departments, and then you incorporate them in your general paper document for planning by the Ministry of Finance. And then when it comes to Parliament, which is where the people's representatives, and that's where the three of you sit, where they are, the assumption again is that you scrutinize this, you plan for them, you look at them, you throw out some which are not important, and then you come up with what we have, which is supposed to transform the country in one way or the other. Honorable Herbert, are you convinced that this 52.7 trillion shillings is a budget that will create an impact for this country in the coming year?
Thank you, Charles, and our great viewers. Yes, the 52.7 trillion will make some impact, but based on certain conditions, in my opinion. Because out of the 52.7 trillion, government will be collecting internal revenue or domestic revenue of 29.7 trillion. That means the rest of the money is coming elsewhere. And I've always had one thing in mind, that normally, if you want to grow, basically on an individual basis, if your expenditure is always above your income, you cannot grow unless if you steal. If your expenditure is above your income, you cannot grow unless if you steal, on an individual basis.
Yes.
Now, on the government level, this means that the expenditure of 32.7 is above the ability to mobilize revenue, because the revenue is at 29.7 billion, and the total expenditure is 52. Now, there is that shortfall. Therefore, how can government get out of that if it wants to grow? And to me, if it wants to grow, and that's the condition I want to set, that out of the remaining, out of 52, we find that the discretionary amount that the government can actually pay is about 25.16, meaning that the 27 trillion will be for committed priorities where government cannot even touch a coin. So the 25.16, which is the discretionary, government must do one thing, must ensure that it spends more on investment expenditure within that amount than consumptive expenditure. Now, if you spend more in investment expenditure on the remaining amount of money that is available to you, then that means that you can be able to grow. But if government goes ahead and out of what is remaining with, spends it on consumption, then to me, we are not going anywhere. So my take is that the 52.7 budget can be of an impact if government goes with that condition, that you spend more on investment than consumption.
Honorable Nandala Mafabi, that if of economists, that they call it what, ceteris paribus, that everything remaining constant. Do you think it can be achieved this year?
First of all, I want to thank my brother Tayewa, and he has talked well, because he's an accountant. And that's why I want to get my book here. This is a report, this reports on the consolidated financial statement of government of Republic of Uganda for the year ended June 30th June 2022. What does it say? It is giving you actual things. And I will state that we are always making a mistake, this Omar as well on the budget committee, not to check what is happening. Now I'll give figures and also tell you what's happened. In 2022, our budget, because I want to use that one to show you where we're going, was 44.2 trillion, but we got 37.4 trillion. That means there was already a deficit of 7 trillion shillings. In 2020-2021, our budget was 44.2 trillion, and we got actual 34.1, giving a variance of 10.1. So 42.2, you get 34.1, you have a variance of 10, already negative. 2021-2022, you get 44.7, your actual is 37.4, you have a variance of 7.3 trillion. 2023-2024 is 48.1 trillion, already they are crying of shortfalls. 2023-2024, you are talking of it, you said
52.7.
So now the trend is that we have never in our life realized the budget we make, but we're always increasing. But I also want to look at the revenues. Now the revenues, which you have talked to my brother Tayewa, in the 2021, URA gave us 18.6 trillion. That is URA collections, including NTR. In 2022, that is ending 30th June, 21.05 trillion. Now, you are saying now, in these 2 years, are we together? You are going to increase to 29 point something.
Yes.
Already we're in deficit. That means our budget from day one is a deficit financing budget. Because what do I mean a deficit? You must borrow to finance. Now, I will give again figures about our debt. You know, sometimes you people on budget committee are going to arrest you because what you are doing is not right for us. Our debt, I will start with 2021. In 2021, domestic borrowing, that includes payables, treasury bills, bonds, promissory notes, was 30.8 trillion, end of the financial year. 2022, 30th June, is 38.1 trillion. External debt in 2021 was 44.3. External debt in 2022 was 48.4. So you have now a total of 75.1 trillion in 2021. You have got 2022 is 86.6. I am sure in 2023 you might be over 100. And that clearly shows you are running a deficit budget. You have never given us variances of how you run your budgets. And that's why we're calling on that it is time for accountants to run the business of budgeting, because budgeting is expected income and expected expenditure. Now, since you are dealing a deficit budgeting, financing, you have got a lot of problems, and these problems are causing us issues. For example, when these bonds and the treasury bills get mature, Bank of Uganda must pay. And when it pays, that's why you're hearing that there's a hole of 3 trillion in Bank of Uganda. And on daily basis, I think they charge you 1 billion shilling for interest. That means in 360 days, that's already 360 billion only on that. In addition to that, there are these SMEs, whereby there is a debt of almost 6 trillion. Do you know what I mean, SMEs? Those who supply to Ministry of Finance, Agriculture, stationery, what services and whatever.
Wow.
So these have a debt of 6 trillion. These are not being paid. They have borrowed money in banks. And these are the ones who are suffering more. That's why the SMEs are dying. And why is that dying? Because of government. And these ones, if we're being funded properly, they would be the ones who will be paying taxes. In fact, these big boys like the Sudanis and what, they don't pay taxes. They are the ones who get exemptions. They are the ones who, recently you gave him 86 billion to go to Munyonyo. But these small ones cannot get that, are the ones who are right for paying what? Taxes. Now, if they are not paying taxes, the big boys are not paying, and you're killing them, where is the economy? I want to state here without fear or contradictions, we must tighten our belts. In fact, the one thing is, if I come back to figures, you know me, I deal with figures. The fixed cost of this country are servicing of debt, external debt mostly, and others. It is already 13 billion, okay? Sorry, 13 what? Trillion. You put on administration, it's also about almost 10 trillion. So it means that's over 23 trillion. You said you're going to collect 29, I'm not so sure. The maximum you're going to collect must be 24, 25. In short, the external debt servicing and this administration have taken already all the money of URA, and they will need more money to borrow from, they said, SACCOs and microfinance to fund part of that expenditure of administration. So if government cannot even manage public administration, cannot manage external debt, that shows we are in total hell. Now, what is our problem? These people, budget committee who call themselves the gurus, are not seeing how the budget is running. You're not comparing the activity of the previous budget, where they implemented. You are going to budget, you are not doing, and you're the people who are bringing again, oh, our budget is 52 trillion. What is the past? Please, we need now people to come back to the drawing board, and I want to tell the people of Uganda, tighten your belts. And me, I will tell you that in a bit. These people who are talking about the debt alone is going to swallow us badly. Bank of Uganda with 3 trillion hole is going to finish us. So in that, there is no money which Taiwo has talked about that it will be there for development, so that's what? Investing in the capital investment so that you generate money, not in consumption. Already the consumption, you have not funded it already. So now you are going to borrow to even pay debt, you are going to borrow for investment. Okay. In a nutshell, which I want to conclude, it is because we have given this economy, economists are the ones who are budget men who don't know what is income and expenditure and the balance.
Honorable Mara, there is an indictment on you guys. You hold two positions that Honorable Nandala accuses.
Yeah.
One, you are also in the government that is managing us, but also you happen to be on that budget committee whose members Nandala once arrested and prosecuted. For what crime? For what crime, Honorable Nandala? For lying or for mismanagement?
You see what happened?
For mismanaging the economy.
No, yes, they are like, well, you cannot bring a figure which is not backed up, because you could say, what was the previous figure? What did it do? You are busy coming with a rising curve. Is it called a rising curve?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you are not understanding what is underlying the rising what? Curve.
Okay, good. Honorable Mara, you have no money for development, and you're proudly, as Parliament, as Budget Committee, saying that we have done great, 52.7%. And why are you, if to use Nandala's word, lying?
Charles, Honorable Nandala is my senior. He has been in Parliament for quite a while.
So he has lied more.
And he knows the process which Parliament undertakes during the budget discussions. I just want us to stay with the facts and also balance the discussion. I want first to submit that Parliament, before the budget is approved, we undertake a lot of activities For example, we reviewed the NDP3 as amended 2020 to 2025 as reviewed. There's the National Budget Framework paper, which we look at as a parliament with the sectoral committees looking at the various ministries. We have the draft budget estimates for the financial year. We look at certificate of compliance with the NDP and gender and equity issues. Then there are ministerial policy statements that come from various ministries, including Ministry of Finance. And then certificate of climate change, and we make sure that they are in compliance with Charter for Fiscal Responsibility, and amongst many other instruments that we look at. So when time comes for consolidation, which Budget Committee basically does, Budget Committee does harmonization and consolidation. There's nothing so drastic that the Budget Committee does. And we wait for the corrigenda, which normally comes when there are adjustments in the budget estimates, and then we basically provide those inputs. So I would want my brother here not to accuse us, because after all, in the end,
Arrest you.
it is the Parliament of Uganda that approves budget. It's not the Budget Committee.
And he's a member.
So I want to have that qualification. And he's a member. Now,
Now we know who to arrest.
yeah, you know who to arrest. I would want to agree with Honorable Tayebwa in terms of the argument he has made. And I just want to go into a bit more detail. It is true that URA is expected under domestic revenue generation to collect 29.67 trillion. And that could be a very high figure, because as of now, URA is supposed to collect 25.5 trillion in this financial year. Today in our discussion,
ending.
It's ending. Today, the Minister of Finance admitted that URA will have a shortfall of 505 trillion by the end of the year. Billion, rather,
Billion.
505 billion
Billion.
by the close of the financial year, which means we will not be able to hit
That's
the target.
about $500 billion.
At about half a trillion, yes. So the 29.67 trillion could be a higher figure, but the economy is projected to grow, and we expect that the URA would make an effort to collect that money. So Charles, that 29.67 trillion plus others, which is coming from local revenue, is now going to be 57.6% of that budget, of the total resource envelope. I think Uganda is making a stride in the right direction, that we are almost getting to 60% to cover our own budget. And I don't want people to, my brother, to paint a very bad picture of the situation. So the balance, which basically we are supposed to borrow from external financing and domestic financing and grants, and what we call the rollovers, domestic refinancing, will be a total of 23 trillion shillings, which is 44% of that budget. And so maybe that is where the challenge is, in terms of that we can only able to fund up to 57.6% of our budget, and then 44% will have to come from somewhere else. And let me also say that in terms of where the money is going, the recurrent expenditure of total government, central government will take 12.2 trillion shillings, local government 4.1 trillion, and if you total that, 16.8 trillion is basically recurrent expenditure. Your salaries and whatnot will be 16.82% of the budget. Then the development expenditure for government of Uganda will be 14.43 trillion, with central government taking 13.2 trillion and local government 1.1 trillion. That is money for development expenditure. But if you break through it, you'll actually find that majority of that money is foreign. It is money coming from outside to invest in capital investment, development budget. which is 7.76 trillion. It's actually 14.7% of that budget, of development budget. But I think the most important thing that we must note is that the only money which is domestically generated, which will be used for development expenditure, is only 6.1 trillion, which is actually 11.5% of the total budget. That's domestic revenue. As a country, so without external support in supporting our capital investment, we would only, as a country, be able only to fund up to 11.5% on development budget. Is that a big amount of money? Maybe not much. But if you look at the money which is coming out from outside, our total development expenditure will actually be 27%. And I don't think that is a small amount of money, given the circumstance in which we are in. And then finally, there's this animal called statutory expenditure, which is basically the loans which Honorable Mafabi has talked about. The total amount which will go towards debt repayments in this budget will be 21.4 trillion shillings. And I think that is the worrying trend, which as a country, 21.473 trillion.
Not 27.
Not 27.
It's 21.4.
It's 21.4 trillion.
So that means debt alone is 21.3.
Yeah.
If you subtract from what URA is giving, your remaining is only 4 trillion.
So if URA is giving you, you can do the quick numbers. If URA is giving you 29.7 or 20.7, you take away 21.47. That is actually the actual cash you have. So the debt repayments and interest, is a big chunk.
8.3.
You have only 8.3.
So how much is that?
So meaning as a country we cannot provide for our development. We have only.
Yes.
You cannot. Yeah, you cannot.
Because if you say you have a certain amount of debt,
yeah.
21. If you say 29.7 trillion
yeah.
that URA can collect.
Yes.
Then you take. From that, you take away 21.4 trillion,
yes,
which is set aside for statutory expenditure.
Yeah.
You say that means paying debts.
That means that debt only. You are not going to do anything else. It's a statutory expenditure.
That leaves us with 8.3 trillion shillings.
Yes.
And and you have not yet paid salaries.
You have not paid
Which
salaries.
is 6.9 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, where does it talk about
which
the
is 6.9 trillion.
Yes.
Where does it get the
So you are left with less than
development?
less than 2 trillion to manage the country in a year. Is that, and you have said we are not doing badly, Honorable.
No, what I'm saying is that.
But he said development will be 6 trillion.
Given, let's be positive. If you look at URA in the
I like
past,
being positive.
URA in the past was collecting 17 trillion shillings, 19 trillion. They have gone into 22 trillion. They might close around 24 point something because they are half a trillion below budget. So which means they have moved at 24. So that's progress.
Oh, that's the one you referred to.
That's the one I referred to.
No, in fact, for me, my argument is that URA is not the problem. And when I bring in this, the professor and Council Godba, I'm going to ask them where the problem is. Because URA, in my view, is not the problem. The problem lies in Parliament and in executive.
No, can I say this before maybe you move?
Yeah.
Even when because you see, the president is the one that gives the budget ceiling.
Yes.
So if you see, during the budget framework paper, the amount was 49.9 trillion. And then during the budget, when the actual budget estimate was put, was I think about 50.9 trillion. Now, but because of the demand of the country, because now the president is visiting the countryside, people are coming with demands. We have this road is not worked upon. This bridge is broken. So that's why we have this animal called Korugenda. Finally, the president will say, okay, let's review the budget ceiling, go back and then let's look at the budget again. and now the budget has closed at 52.7. Is because of the demand. And as budget committee, when we are doing the consolidation and looking at the unfunded priorities, there were over 10 trillion
But
unfunded.
why don't you people on the budget committee change that word?
I mean,
Unfunded priority.
it's
How
been-
can it be a priority and you don't fund
It's
it?
coming from the executive. It's
wants-
not our language.
No, Paul wants
It's not
to
our
be
language.
positive.
So Charles, if
You have said it is a priority. then you don't fund it. But you're funding other things.
so the budget is limited, the revenue is limited, as Honorable
Unfunded
Taiwo has
priorities.
said. The revenue, you cannot actually continue to spend money without looking at the source of the revenue. And I've told you here that URA is only able to collect 20.7 trillion. And 23 point something trillion will be borrowed money. And that is 44%. So you cannot continue to push the boundary line of expenditure when the revenue is not there.
Okay.
Are we going to borrow ourselves to death? So there must be a point where we need to say, you know what? What is our priorities? I think that should be the big question. That the question is, where is all this money going? Because if you look at where the summary of which I've given you here, the summary of where this money is going, 16.832 trillion is recurrent expenditure. What Kaguta calls cham. That is cham.
Cham.
Cham. That's recurrent expenditure. Consumption. Then you have now 14.431 trillion is development expenditure. Then 21.47 trillion is statutory, is debt. When you total that thing up, it gives you your 52.736 trillion.
Good. Council
No,
Godber.
but I think let him answer. He told us we can fund our own.
This man, we know numbers than this man.
By 60%.
You said you were going to fund our local collection.
Yes.
Will fund development 6.1 trillion.
Yeah.
Simple mathematics with Charles who doesn't know math. It says there's a balance
That's
of
true.
2 trillion. So where are you getting the figure of 6 trillion when there's only 2 trillion? So we
I think he means he's going to borrow.
No, he said, you've never heard, he said, from our locally generated resources,
Yes.
we have capacity to fund the development by 6.1
No,
trillion,
it's not
which
there.
was 11%
Yeah.
of the what? Of the budget.
Of the
Yes.
budget, yeah.
But from
Yes.
his totals alone, we have only 2 trillion. That clearly shows that the figures he gave initially are already wrong. So if a member
I
of
think
the
that is
budget-
where now we have entered into.
It's not wrong.
It's
because
not wrong.
Our
That is
budget,
where now we have entered into the borrowing.
You have now 23 trillion that you're going to borrow. And that money is coming to fund your budget, that budget line.
Yeah, I
Some
think
of
that-
them will actually go to pay your salaries. It's
So
part
we
of
are
that
borrowing
money.
to even pay salary.
Even to pay salaries, yes. Yes.
Godber, is there any other time to come into this?
That's why I'm saying your appetite is too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Godber, please come in at this point. I like the end point of Honorable Omara.
Yeah.
That are we going to continue borrowing to death? That there must be a time. Now, he and Herbert and Honorable Nandala, these honorable members are the ones who are supposed to take a decision, but they passed that budget as it is. What do we do with them?
Arrest Omara first.
I think Nathan has already prescribed the solution.
But it's also part of me.
When we round them up, I am not sure whether Nathan will survive. But anyway, but the point is, and you know, for me, as a regular person, I am listening to the figures. And these figures, it's very, we are able to throw them around because they are written here. But as a regular person, as a citizen, I am actually, my question is like, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
Huh? The person seated there in
And the you actually is not just you,
No.
but any other ordinary Ugandan.
Exactly. The person listening is seated on their screen listening to us and say, oh, we have a budget of 52 trillion. And so much is going to be spent on recurrent expenditure, so much on development expenditure. What does that mean? Because you see, I speak to people the way the MPs probably meet people in their constituencies. To be honest, there is everywhere, life is hard. Yeah? So the question is, what do these figures mean? The budget, I always try to explain, the budget basically serves more or less like three interrelated purposes. One, it's dealing with how do you collect revenues? Where do you get money to finance the government?
Yeah.
Number two, how do you spend it? Embedded in the spending is the whole question of budget policy. So in other words, at the core, the budget is a policy instrument. And it directs, so if you have a government that knows how to use the budget, you are basically using the budget to give signals where the economy is moving.
Yeah.
People who are thinking innovative ideas, thinking business, where should they be innovating? So really it's like this is the direction of where we are going. So when you look at the budget right now, the way it was passed by Parliament, because I've been reading the report of the committee, and then the budget framework paper, my question is that where is the direction? So even when you look at the spending, I would expect, especially for the members of Parliament, by the way, I would expect that the budget, as they talk, as they discuss, it is looking at production and output.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are we now? After this year, what areas of output will have changed? Because you see, the output will even tell you where you may correct revenues. Yeah? Because you see, you can't correct revenues where you're not producing. No, you cannot produce. You cannot correct revenues because Ugandans are producing. So I would be able to see this is the direction where we are going to be producing as a country. Number two, and this is where the executive and Parliament have given us a raw deal. Each one of these entities, which have authority over the budget, they have all shied away from telling us, where are you creating jobs? Because this country is hurting. There are young people out there getting out of our tertiary institutions, the universities, the colleges, the vocational schools. There are young people falling out of school. The problem of unemployment is massive. So when we spend the 52 trillion, where are the jobs being created? How many jobs are we creating this year?
Yeah.
Can you promise us, the taxpayers, the citizens who vote for you, can you tell us that, one, if we invest the 52 trillion this year, we will create so many jobs? You can also tell us and say, because we are going to borrow almost 32 trillion, about 22 trillion.
23.
Yeah, 22, 23 trillion. That once we borrow this money, we will invest it and we'll create the jobs. And you can see the distortions in the budget that is approved right now. Where do you find the distortions? One is that if you find that on the development expenditure, as Paul has said, central government is likely to be spending up 13 trillion. Local governments are likely to be spending about 1.2 trillion. If you see that kind of budget, you know we are in for a rude shock. Because you see, unless and until government of Uganda understands that jobs are created in the districts, jobs are created in local government, that's where business is supposed to be. I should go to Otuke, I should go to Ntungamo, and that is where investments are being made. People are being supported to start their businesses and they thrive.
Goldberg, can I provide some information maybe?
Maybe when I'm done.
Yeah.
I think that I like the idea the investment, the projected investment in the transport infrastructure, because this country is almost coming to, we're coming to stand still.
That's the information I wanted to
Yeah.
provide to you, so
Yeah.
that you can look at it.
Okay, just go
For
ahead.
the 2.4
Yeah.
roads,
So in terms of the major key areas that will take a lot of money from this budget, I just want to highlight a few so that it can really answer the issues that he's raising. So the local government will take 4.1 trillion. That is
4.1.
4.1 trillion, which is
But that is inclusive of wages, right?
which is 7.8% of the budget.
That includes wages.
That includes wages, yes. Then you have the
What you do to help, you tell us that this is the money for development and this is for wages.
I've already told you that 1.1 trillion under local government is for
That is
for
why
development.
Is recurrent.
That's why God by saying,
Yes.
why are you taking 1.1 trillion while the central government is remaining with 13 trillion? This is what this would explain. Where are they investing? That's where the explanation should be, and that is saying
Yes.
to create jobs, you
yes.
need to invest in what?
Local government.
Yes. So most of the central government capital investment is basically under the roads, Ministry of Works. So integrated transport infrastructure and services will take 4.486 trillion, which is 8.5% of that budget. As you have noted, our roads are basically shambolic. So we have put relatively high amount of money under Ministry of Works to do it. And then, of course, key item, which is always very is well known to everybody, security. Governance security will take 7.5 trillion, which is 14% of the budget. And you know, we are an island of peace amongst troubled neighbors. So the justification for that is clear. And then human capital development, which is basically your schools, your hospital, your water, etc., is 9.54 trillion, which is also 18%, 18.09% of your budget. So the key areas is basically local government, governance and security, human capital development, integrated transport, yes, and then also there is agro-industrialization, which is 1.787 trillion and 3.3% of that, and then private sector development, which I think Godba would be very happy with, 1.864 trillion, and it's 3.53% of the budget. Those are the major areas that will consume this budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
Godba, you wind up so that I...
Yeah, no, I think, so I understand, Paul, I get your point.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that part of the challenges we have had as a government is that we talk about these figures. We don't talk about the outputs.
Yes.
If we do agro-industrialization,
Yes.
this is where the majority of Ugandans are engaged in work.
Yes.
That is where you employ people. If we invest this 1 trillion plus, 1 plus trillion, how many jobs are we planning to get there? Because I guess my point is to say, you as a parliament, you should be putting these sectors to task. We are giving you 2 trillion.
Yep.
How much are you
Agreed.
producing?
Exactly.
How many jobs are you creating? The question of jobs in Central, it's a time bomb for us as a country. So it is not about saying, oh, we have given you 3% of the budget.
Yep.
No, but what is it going to be doing?
Yeah.
So I think that the conversation needs to shift from just the figures of what we are investing there, what we are putting here, to be able to say, this is what we are going to buy with this money. I can tell you, Paul, that all of you MPs, I can tell you that I have done research on local government. I know the dysfunctional nature of local government, and it is a big challenge that until the members of parliament can understand that the economy of this country must be built around the pillars, these local governments, these regions, when we talk of Bugisu and coffee, that's important. When we talk of Teso and cattle, we have to be able to see, can Teso still be built around the cattle? When we talk about the different regions, these are supposed to be the pillars of this economy. That is the only way you're going to create jobs that actually impact on people. So I think that the conversation around the budget right now is so much concentrating on the figures without dealing on how is it delivering and addressing the challenge, the policy challenges that we face as a country.
Good. Professor Sally, these are very interesting, commentaries that are coming from your colleagues. But when you put yourself in the shoes of an ordinary person, do you think that they should be celebrating?
They are not celebrating, they are disagreeing. Thank you very much, Charles. Well, Godber gave us 3 points of what a budget does, and I wanted to add on, but maybe he also hinted on it when he was. The 4th point is actually that a budget communicates the aspirations of the country. It communicates the policy, the priorities. Where do they want to emphasize? And when I looked at the budget framework paper, and I looked at where the key program areas are that are receiving a lot of money, as Honorable Mara has explained them, I thought actually there was a plus. Because when you look at the budget framework paper, when you look at each of those sectors, they have said what they are going to do, and they have mentioned how they are actually good, but they try to put a lot of detail in how much they are going to reduce in terms of post-harvest losses. They have said how much they are going to invest in agriculture value chain. They have talked about how they are going to increase household food security. So on the look of things, it looks like for once, actually not for once, I think it continues in the tradition of celebrating the people who are affected most. It looks like a pro-poor, pro-vulnerable people kind of budget. But even with that, it's going to suffer some challenges that we have really tried to see. For example, if you looked at the newspaper of yesterday, just on the issue of do we go by agriculture extension workers or do we go by PDM? If you read yesterday's New Vision, there was a quarrel of the extension services being cut by, I think, around 120 billion, so that they are going to be left with 140 billion. And they are saying, if you don't give them that money, PDM will not take place. But of course, I think within the article, they were talking about how PDM should actually fulfill the vacuum that's going to be left by this. So what does this mean? That even as we are communicating the priorities in this budget, probably there needs to be a discussion within these sectors. Of course, within the article, they had talked about how 36,000 extension workers are going to be let redundant. My question was, where are they? Because it's very difficult actually to find them. So in addition to the budget communicating national priorities, I think we also need maybe a section where the budget, where the effectiveness of the budget should be assessed. And probably that's what Honorable Nandala was talking about. Maybe as we come to the new budget or new financial year, there should be time to assess how the previous one performed effectively, not just in terms of numbers. Of course, the agro-industrial issues are very important. The governance issues are very important. The human capital development issues are very important. And for me, what made me happy about this budget is that for each sector, because it is inspired by the NDP3, for each sector, there are programs. For each sector, there is agenda and equity. Because when I came here, really, for me, I planned for how the 52.7 trillion is going to meet the 39%. So for each sector, whether it is in minerals, whether it is in tourism, there's agenda and equity statement. How do they expect it to service the women, the youth, the people with disabilities, the people in remote areas? Probably if that was taken and implemented effectively, the issue of what Godber is talking about, of the local government being the place, and the site where production takes place would be met. But as they have all expressed, we have a dilemma. We are a young country with a very high dependency burden.
Young country?
Young country. Yeah, because most of the population is
Country
young.
of young people.
Ah, you mean the demographics?
Yes.
You mean the demographics?
Not like Southern Sudan, the demographics, most of our population is young.
Yeah.
Now, it is not very productive. It's still in the issue of the dependency stage.
Yeah.
And this country has committed itself with the budget is under the theme of accelerating economic recovery and enhancing productivity. So how do you do this when you are saddled with a very dependent population?
Yeah.
I think that's where there needs to be a big challenge. But also with that, even as they are doing all the rest that means well, it looks like we may have to do more in terms of financial services, awareness raising, and the mindset change, which in the PDM is number 7, probably should have come first. I'm very passionate about the urban people who are not being included in the PDM and the rural schemes. And today I was informed that actually for some of those urban SMEs, there's a fund for them in Bank of Uganda. 200 billion, but actually they don't use it because maybe they don't even know, they don't access it. Then they say it is there, but the people, the beneficiaries say they don't access it.
Who says
Then-
so? They say it is them.
Honorable Nandala will tell us and Honorable Mara. Now you go to the rural areas, they're supposed to be PDM. Of course, there are debates of the 100 million per parish. It is not enough, and 1 million per household.
Which
What can you do?
Which also has not.
But now
they
I'm coming.
Know, they
No,
know
no,
that
no.
it is not also
Charles,
going.
I'm coming. Because if you read the recent stories around PDM, one, there are the difficulties of access because it must be gotten from particular banks.
Yeah.
So if someone is going to come from a very high mountainous area, I think the story is in Imbala that people are sleeping 3 days on the veranda to access PDM. Even when they go there, they don't have enough documentation and they're getting stressed. And the assessment of who should benefit is being determined by the parish chiefs. Which parish chiefs, I think in a few days ago, 3 of them were arrested for tampering and extortion. Then you have stories like if you watched Urban TV, is it 2 days ago? Where a man kills his brother-in-law because the wife got the PDM cash and refused to share with the husband and has run away to Kenya. And you have these allocations of 30 for women, we celebrate, 30 for, I think, for youth, we also celebrate. Then I think 10 for people with disabilities, 20 for men. So the budget looks good, okay?
On paper.
You're on paper. No, I believe it will be made good. And we are raising this matter so that these effectiveness issues are pursued. So the budget means well in terms of the aspirations of this country. It communicates well. But I think people need to be educated about what these things are about, the awareness raising, and maybe hopefully, God, but when we do these things, probably jobs will be created. Because we are stuck in a dilemma.
Yeah.
You have a dependent population, but which you cannot live without developing it.
Yeah.
So you have to develop it. But how do you develop it? Then you end up borrowing. And when you borrow, then you end up with the dilemma that the honorables are expressing here. The accountants are saying that's not good financial behavior. So where do we go from here?
Yes.
Very good question. Where do we go from here? But let's take a break. We're going to take a break from here. And then when we come back, we will now, I will open up the debates. Feel free to interject, interfere here and there. But let's have a debate and look at the different dynamics, different variables within or which are affecting this budget. But the question that we must answer at the end of it all, will it impact the common lower person at the grassroots across this country? Let's go for a break now.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. A reason to imagine is slay. His reason is to be the GOAT. Theirs is to take the beat and make it lit. They want to test edgy until it is fire. Their reason for imagination is to add riz in style. Her reason to imagine is finesse. And hers is to find what's new and bussin'. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
Do you know your architect? Is your architect registered? An architect in Uganda is one registered with the Architects Registration Board, ARB. ARB is a statutory body mandated to regulate and maintain standards and practice of architecture in Uganda. Save money and life that is often lost in collapsing buildings as a result of employing quacks to supervise your construction sites. Remember, only registered architects have professional indemnity in the event of loss of your property. To learn more about the benefits of using a registered architect, visit www.arbuganda.go.ug now. Or call us on 0781 498 823 or find us at PKF Building, Kira Road, Kampala. ARB is here to ensure professionalism in the architectural industry.
Did you know that you can safely and conveniently make your school fees payments anytime, any school, anywhere using Airtel Money? Oh yes! Simply pick up your phone and dial *185#. Select option 6, school fees. Choose between school pay, peg pay, or shore pay. Enter student number. Enter amount, confirm name and transaction. Enter Airtel Money PIN. A confirmation message will be sent to you upon a successful transaction. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
She is our family's pride. And as her father, I will protect her from child marriage and talk to her about the dangers of teenage pregnancy. We each have a role to play in empowering our teenage girls to protect them from child marriage and pregnancy, because when we empower them, we empower our nation. Protect the girl, save the nation.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sauti 116.
Jerry Con! Hey, Master Blaster! Touch him, man! Bang Jerry Con with muscle! Those ones who say go for you only. Mundava! Best group is I teach you. When I go to the squad, because of the cover is very far. Is you serious? Is serious you? What can I what? Yeah? You stay with your needs. Add kilometers to your legs, and you get your sugar. We buy milk from Umaru. And the woman refused to give you enough meat. Mama! Show him that they don't joke with you.
Okakaluka n'okulungi kwetaagako omuntu akuyambako, n'olwekyo tujja kukuteerawo embeera esaanidde osobole okukola ekisinga. Awamu teri kitulema.
Tompa birara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa birara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti
tompa birara mpa irisiti yange. That's right, insist on getting your e-receipt. It's your ticket to fantastic prizes, including motorbikes, laptops, fridges, and a fully paid 6-day safari for 2 in Uganda. Take a picture of your e-receipt, upload it to the URA website or mobile app, and you could be the lucky winner. The more receipts you upload, the higher your chances of winning. Terms and conditions apply. More details on our social media channels.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines this Wednesday, the 24th of May, 2023. We are discussing the budget. We are discussing whether it will have some impact on transforming lives. We are discussing what is in the budget for you and I. With me in the studio, we have the Honorable Nathan Nandala Mafabi, we have Honorable Herbert Tayebwa, we have Honorable Omara Paul, we have Council Godba, and we have Professor Sarah.
Honorable Godba. What's the
Honorable
problem?
Godba, you deserve, of course, being an honorable. No doubt about that. I have got some. I've got several messages from you out there. I'm going to read just a few for now. The rest we shall read again in the discussion in this segment. Nixon Navaye says, good evening. I think Uganda is now beyond our imagination. Money is there, but in few hands. Someone says, another person says, good evening, panelists. Honorable Nandala Mafabi is telling the truth that government is in high gear to make, this is not, that government should be in high gear to make Honorable Nandala Minister of Finance in the next reshuffle.
Nathan, you have a vote of confidence there.
Another person says, thanks for this program. Can we just reduce MP's money? Thank you. And then another person, this is Medis from Serere, says, Charles, thanks so much for the show. I'm really very happy that the panel is almost for the top economists in this country. You should add mine as the moderator. And some of them are our MPs. Please, what have they in this budget plan for our men and women? What have they got for our men and women in uniform?
Yeah.
Please, these unsung heroes, imagine they get 480,000 per month. Will their children afford better education in our country, or will they educate up to university? Thanks. My regards to my in-law, Honorable Nandala Mafabi. He has not let us down. Then someone called, this one is called Simple San Opoki, a third-year student at Makerere University pursuing Bachelor of Arts in Economics. He says, if government expenditure for the next financial year is 52.7 trillion, and of this only 29.7 can be raised, where will the rest of the balance be gotten from?
Simple.
Me, I'm advising the government to adopt contractionary fiscal policy that reduces their highly budgeted expense in the coming financial year. Otherwise, our country will continue to run on deficit, even for 1,000 years. Thank you. Thanks, Opoki. This one is called Darius Ndiendanavo, and is from Kashonji. I'm watching thanks to my MP, Honorable Tayebwa Herbert. I thank him for representing Kashongi County and Uganda at large. Thanks a lot, Darius. And your honorable MP has heard.
That vote is assured.
That vote is assured. One in the bag.
Yes.
This person says, I thank all those lawmakers in the building. This is Jolly Ben watching and following you live from Arua. Jolly, I will be with you on the weekend, so we look for each other. He says, the 52.7 trillion shillings budget could be of great impact in our country if vital sectors like health, education, and transport were given a lion's share rather than a stable security sector. High five to my papa, Nandala Mafabi. Honorable Nandala, I think your other idea of the other ambition seems to be growing. And then this one is called Tamale Vincent from Mitiana. He says, the challenge I submit is poor placement of servants. Like, for the sake of finance, it all starts from the central bank administration. This can be seen on how Russia has made it with sanctions, just only with its talented governor. Someone called Oronya Innocent says, the figures have spoken. Thanks to Honorable Nandala Mafabi for highlighting it. I think we just need to be realistic and stop considering the budget process as just an annual ritual, but let's make it practical. Thanks, Oronya. Another person is called Wilson from Bududa, Wilson Watira from Bududa. He says, good evening, Charles. Today's discussion has got some flavor because of my MP, the chairman of Bugisu Cooperative Union. My question is, for how long are we as a nation going to have surplus budget? Can government give us the time frame so that at such a time we have shifted away from a deficit? No. Can government give us a deadline of when we shall have shifted from a deficit budget and have a balanced budget or surplus? This one is called, no, this one has not put his name, but he says, I am from, he says, can you, moderator, tell Honorable Paul Omara that our budget is 52.7 trillion, but northern Uganda people, for example, the Lango are working on a very bad road. For example, Dokolo to Ochera to Namasale Road. The road is too bad and on budget, and that half of it is to be paid by debt something. The message is not very clear, but I guess it has been understood. Let me take 3 now. Hello, Charles. Good evening. Thanks for inviting those gentlemen and the lady. I wanted to remind you that the budget is of 50 trillion because 2.7 was included to cater for corruption. This is from Rukundo Nelson from Nyanama. I wish you had explained it. This one is from Chakala GM. Your message is too long, so I'm just going to pick 2 sentences. He says, the budget nowadays is not pro-people, but pro-executive. Government should stop looking at us only for taxes and a major source of revenue. When we have nothing left, that's what I have picked. Your message is too long. Let me now take this one. I am Michael Opolot from Palisa, Agule County. I'm happy to see those panelists, especially my MP, Nandala, and I greet all of you. Charles, I have realized that when the government is going to impact only corruption, we as young people now head to Dubai where there is a lot of work and serious implementation, not just corruption. That's what he's saying. Maybe finally, let me take this one from This person is called Aklio, and he says, my question is, medical institutions like Mulago, paramedical schools, students who are offering certificate pay the school fees that doubles that of someone offering a bachelor's degree in engineering or Makerere University. What do the MPs talk about that corruption in Mulago paramedical? Then Enosi Maloba says, I'm watching live UBC. My problem here is on the classified expenditure. The president has said that we must be patriotic, but why don't we reduce the expenditure of State House and other agencies? Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many, I can't finish reading them, but I thank you all for sending them. I will be reading some others when we come back, because there are so many, including one from Mr. Odongo, who says, I am from Otuke, I'm watching my Honorable MP Omara, and let him know that there is no allocation for our road. And how can, Honorable Omara, how can you be on that budget committee and you fail to secure for us budget for our local road and in the region?
Tough, man.
Those votes are gone.
Now, let me come back to Honorable Herbert.
Yes.
The issue of production, the issue of distortions, we talked about, then your colleagues here introduced the issue of dysfunctional local governments. And if you follow from even some of the questions, the public are asking, some members of the public are asking, are we really being sensitive to their real needs? Local governments are supposed to be the closest to the people, but it gets nothing for serious development, and all they get is for consumption, to pay wages, which is really a right, yes, but what remains for development?
Thank you, Charles. Charles, before I came to Parliament, I worked for this government, and particularly I worked in the planning authority. When you are planning and making these budgets and NDPs, you actually don't understand what is on the ground. When I left the boardrooms and went on the ground, I realized so many things, and that's why I insist that unless on the conditionality, we are not going very far. What happens is this, is that we need to do some changes in our policies. The people in the villages are not reflected on these improvements in the budgets. We are now at 52.7 trillion. What's the impact, especially on the poverty levels? And the reason why I look at it is that people are poor for many reasons, not because they don't get on government share. People are poor basically for three reasons. One, 60% of the people who are poor don't work. Two, 25% of the people who are poor, they are poor because they don't have a plan when even they are working. What do I mean by that? Somebody goes to work, he earns 10,000, he drinks it there, and then he comes back to zero. He will remain poor, obviously. 15% of the people who are poor, they try to work, but they work on what they don't know. They don't have requisite knowledge or sufficient knowledge of what they are doing. So whatever they are doing, they are making losses. Now, government has not taken a deliberate policy to make people work. And therefore, our problem in this country is production. The productivity levels, and I see it in on this budget. One of the objectives, they want to increase productivity on farms and farms. But how do you do that? Some of us who are involved even in agriculture, you look for people to work, you can't get them, yet people are poor. So, now, government the other day...
But Herbert,
yes?
I don't understand when you say you can't get them.
Yes.
Because you see, I've been telling people, I said, just like in Feb, I was doing some work on my coffee plantation. And I asked for people to come and work on the farm. I just wanted 100 people. I ended up with 160. Because this was a number that I had not budgeted for.
Now, this is
where is your farm?
Wait a minute.
In Ntungam.
In Ntungam.
This is
The
different
coffee farm.
from, you see, this is
Yeah, so,
different. You are one individual who comes with a lot of money, and you are one. But I expect people to come and work on their own.
Work on your farm?
They can work on your farm, they can work on their own gardens, they can work on their... But most of the people you find spending the whole day not working. I'm from the village, in my constituency. The majority of the people who are poor, they spend the day drinking. So that one is a fact. You cannot, you cannot say no. It's a fact. Now, what happens is...
I think Honorable, you're right, because what you are lucky, because even me, I have a big farm.
Yeah.
And the time came for harvest, and you say, or even weeding, and you want people to come and weed. You look for people and you would hardly find.
Maybe you underpay them.
No.
Because it's a countrywide phenomenon.
So what
people don't want to work. They want money.
What I'm saying...
Yeah, but where do I get the people who work on my farm? Where do they come from?
This explains why government programs all over since have failed to come out with results. Bonaba Gagawale, OWC,
but honestly, that's different.
Now what happens is this.
That's different.
Now what happens is this. You cannot go up country and find big achievements out of the last government programs. So that's not there. I'm from the village. Two, we are now coming to PDM, which we are all praising as government officials. It's a government program. But the question remains, you are giving this money to get this person out of poverty. You never made an assessment what made him poor in the first instance.
Mindset change.
But how about you guys? You are the ones approving the money. So why are you approving the money?
You have never established what made him poor. And what is going to happen is this. Minister of Finance, when they were raising this budget, they said to improve on that revenue, 2.7 trillion will be as a result of parish model. Right? Now, 1 trillion 54 billion is going to be spent on the parish model all over the country for 10,054 parishes. Right? Now, getting 2.7 trillion out of that, that means that there will be a multiplier effect of 2.5 times, which is not possible. Now, these people right now, those who have even got the money, they get the money, they share it, they use it, they consume it. It's not going to be productive. And what we're actually establishing on ground is that even there was a picture being given like on a yoga that this circle is doing well. I established one thing. Somebody gets money, he goes and uses it, it is not productive. He's threatened to be taken to police. He goes and sells part of his land. He pays the loan with the interest. Now the books of the Myoga will indicate people took money and they have done what?
Returned.
They have paid. When in actual sense, he has lost the property because the money did not yield. Okay. That's why the poverty levels are not changing at all.
Is that the reason? Godba is disagreeing a lot. I don't know. Godba, you want to speak to your disagreement?
Listening to her, but actually he's explaining the real situation in practical terms. I know because I do farming.
Yeah.
Every time I need labor, including my because I do farming around the district, but even in my village, when I need labor, there are young people there. They come and they work very hard. Every day, when I go there, I don't work the 7 to 1 p.m. I do 7 to 4 p.m. So in other words, I am convinced that those Ugandans, you can have exceptions, but people want to work. Secondly, when Herbert talks as an MP, this is what challenges me, because These programs have been there. The Myoga, the Ntandikwa, the whatever. They have been there. And even MPs, they tell us they have gone to monitor. And I think when you talk to them privately, they tell you this thing can't work. What Herbert is saying here on TV is what many MPs and several government officials tell you, that they tell you that this PDM is a no-brainer. Because you see, PDM, like all the other programs, they are distributive programs. They are not economic models that you know that by investing so much, I'm going to get out of this. These are distributive programs. Politically, they are correct. If you are President Museveni and you are promising people to give them every parish 100 million, every household 1 million, that it makes perfect political sense. It makes perfect political sense. What we are not capable of doing,
but I thought it is also perfect economic sense.
I'm not sure about that, because you see, the economics work differently. Yeah, the economics work differently. The politically, you are distributing, and the people feel it. By the way, when you bring that 1 million, they feel it. Economically, you don't know what you are investing in, because I know that the households that I come away in my village, even if you throw them 1 million shillings, if you are lucky, that money could come during the coffee season, like now. There is a person who gets 1 million and he will go and buy coffee and trade. If you are unlucky, that money will be delivered when there is no coffee season. I don't know where you can put 1 million and you are able to pay it back. So I think that we have to change the model. I keep on asking, I say, in Ntungamo district, where I come from, what is the economy of that district? What is it? So if Ntungamo is a coffee economy, I want to see a model, a designed model by the district that says we want to increase coffee production from this so many tons to this.
Okay.
But if Kampala designs a model called the PDM and then says we are delivering it in Ntungamo, its effect is going to be very marginal, because there are cases of these programs that have been tried and they haven't delivered what was intended, like Herbert is saying.
You need to have got my point. Let me finish my point. My point is that we need to have change in policy. And that change in policy should compel people to work and we increase production. Because the reason why we're actually in such a situation is that our production levels are very low, both for food and cash crop. And there is nobody, not even me as a leader, neither the president, that is going to work for Ugandans and put money in their pockets. People must come out and work. Now, how do they work? The policy we have had is that do sensitize and convince people to go and work. But that is not alone. And I normally give an example. That, for example, if you have a home and you are the leader, you have your 4 children with your wife, and you say, let everybody do what he wants. If you want to go and read, go and read. If you want to go to the garden, you go. If you don't want, leave. How many children will go and do what you expect of them? So you must guide them. Say, force them to do this because you know it will be beneficial to them.
Okay.
So, to me, why we are in such a situation, why poverty is high at 39%, and to me, I believe it's even above.
It's actually above.
It's above, because in my village, people are poor.
That one they
So
put for
the
good
reason
years.
why the people are poor is that we need to do some change in government policy.
Okay. Honorable Nandala, while you may...
Let Nandala tell us what should change, because
exactly, that's what I was asking. Which government policy should change in order for budgeting, like up to, or using resources available, like up to 52.7 trillion, to change and transform the lives of our people, to ensure that poverty reduces all through Uganda? What should change?
First of all, the appetite.
Whose appetite?
Of these guys.
Of these guys.
The one we are going to arrest.
Of the budget committee.
You see, the appetite.
I can't believe this debate should be reduced to a budget committee.
No, that was a joke. I am not accepting the debate to be reduced to a budget committee. Okay. Honorable Nandala, start again.
The appetite of the government of its expenditure. Unless we come to terms, again, I'm going to give figures. You see, the expenditure is a big problem. You are saying 52 trillion is the money you want to spend. It is based on expenditures which they want to spend on, but the income they are going to get, which is not going to be good, is 29 trillion. How to we are beginning.
Yeah.
That's why I said from day one, I have given you 4 budgets. We have never, ever got the whole money, the trend you have seen. But on that, every year, there's increment in debt.
Why do they continue increasing the target when they have not met even
that's
the
why
one
I'm
of
saying
last year?
the increment of debt is because of the appetite, of expenditure. Unless the expenditure, the appetite goes one. I have given you 21 was 75 billion, 2022 was June was 86.6. That means that it was an increment of 11.5 trillion. Trillion in debt, 75 trillion to went to 86 trillion, 0.6. I getting it. So every year the debt is what? Increasing. And the debt is increasing because of appetite to what? To spend. That's where I want to begin from. And this appetite to spend has a lot of implications. Now, there are so many programs in gender for youth, for women, for disabled. I can tell you that people get money there. Nobody should tell you in the means of gender there's no money. But the rate of returns of that is what Albert said. People sell property to pay. Some, they don't pay. Now, what is happening? That means I have my land. I cut off a portion to sell to pay a debt because I mismanaged. In short, my net worth is going what? Down. That is increasing poverty. And if the moment poverty is on increment, the country is in problem. People are going to become hungry and angry. Now, if you are going to borrow money to fund the budget, where does the government get money? From treasury bonds? From bills? You see, the person everybody is willing to lend is who? Government.
Yeah.
That means the interest rate on bonds and the treasury bills is high. So commercial banks will never lend any person money less than what you would use from a treasury bond. That means if the treasury bond is at 19% or 20%, you will borrow at 24%. Now at 24%, that's why you see in every day in the newspaper, people's property are being what? Auctioned. Now, because a man went to borrow, I'll give a simple example, Charles, to put a maize mill. And if he had put the maize mill to run, the man who produces the maize would bring, the man who will work in Lego, the maize mill, the one who will sweep, the power man will get money, the water, that will create employment. But the moment now I see that I'm losing a house, I'll not put Lego, the grinding machine. So this economy is already a contracted what? Economy. Now the moment the economy is contracted, the first thing government should think about is to cut on the appetite of expenditure. That's number one. Number two is to cut on these tax exemptions. There are mafias hereby, they will get tax exemption. I will call them mafias because no villager from Obusamaga, where I come from, can get an exemption. Your place is called Koshongo. What is it called? Koshongo. They are not there. But I can tell you the others will get. Now you have seen what the villagers are saying. Are asking Omara to make for the road in Otuke. That means it's for Omara gets a road for Otuke or a health center. The next season, members of parliament are going to run to budget committee because Omara got a road in what? Otuke. And that will be dangerous for this country. This dysfunctional budgeting is one of the one thing. So we must look at it in that context. But what do I want to put across? Colleagues, if you wanted to know more about these figures, money which is not in your budget, which is spent, in the 20 external projected funding, not included in the consolidated fund, I don't know if you have these figures. You need to have this, you people of budget committee. In 2021,
we need more volumes than that one you have.
no, but this is somebody helps you by the cheaper, and it will be the best document. You don't need volume.
I've given you figures, and I'm appreciating yours.
No, you say you have volumes, but you don't know where the right figures are. I'm giving you the right figure. That's why.
Those are from the budget committee.
Yeah, he's a member from the budget, but these are the figures who
His
will
man
help
is
you.
a politician.
No. I am here with the figures. Which these are audited books of government.
No, we are focusing on budget.
That's a budget.
2023, 2024.
That's why it is.
Now you are giving background to all figures, which we already have, which is not a subject of discussion.
No, I am helping you that before you went for this budget of 2023, you should have looked at this, because what you are putting in is going to kill people of Uganda. In 2021, 2021,
you are being helped to avoid prison.
external, that which was not is 7.2 trillion. Of course, these are money which go to health sector, sometimes agriculture and whatever. In 2021-22 was 6.8 trillion. This is money which is not in the budget, which comes like in American government, British government. This is the other one.
It's called budget support.
No, they're not budget support.
Budget support, it goes to the budget.
The budget support, you can see that. No,
budget.
budget support is the one which goes to Ministry of Finance to support the budget.
Now,
These are monies which come, which are not budgeted for, but they do activities to support. You'll get a borehole being dug in Otuke.
By Oxfam.
It is not money from what?
Uganda.
Now, what am I trying to bring? This, you may find a borehole in your area, you think it's government borehole, but this is a matter coming from this. What we need, which the budget should have been, which we all need now, how do we help people of Uganda? This budget, you say you have an open budget system. I don't think it's open budget system. If it was open budget system, everybody in this country, the villager, would know what is there for him in that budget, and they would have demanded. And that's why I would like the prophet, what she said. She said, you are talking about to go and do extension workers, doing what to pull those people from poverty. But here we're telling you that people are not getting out of poverty from a number of programs. And some of you in leadership are happy that they rather remain poor, but you are increasing the budget. Now, that's why somebody is saying this budget is for other people to eat, for corruption and whatever. And I want to say this, which I want to help you, my brother. You are just, of course, you have come to Parliament. I thought you were going to make more contribution. But now I've discovered.
Why do you make a contribution by
no, because
your colleague?
No.
One vote lost.
No, he came from, you see, this gentleman was in Stambik. We thought he was coming with better ideas. But he has already fallen in the pit with the guys who have been making the same. You see, what I want us to do is that how best do we make a budget which is for people poor? You are not going to get a villager who has never held $1 million and hand him $1 million. The first thing you will be thinking about, if he had one wife, he might look for a second one. If he was drinking marwa, now he's going for beer. Until that money is what? Finished. But if you make an investment in that area, for example, water, a road, and make sure that he has everything, and tell him now, if you produce your maize, this is the what? The market. If you overproduce, this is a store to keep. If you produce, that will help. But the moment you are going to hand people cash, I don't know who told Museum 7 that you can hand money people. People are going to first of all die, families are going to... Professor told here that a Muko killed a what? A Muko for money. Death is going to increase. And the women will get money, men are going to kill them because they want what? Money. Okay. So I wanted to ask you people.
Let me bring in your colleagues. Let me bring in, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. Yes, Honorable Mara, apart from the response you want to give Honorable Nandala, I need us to touch on other productive sectors and whether they are a priority really.
Yes.
Initially, you fellows talked about unfunded priorities.
Yes.
And they are, you know, every year now we keep asking ourselves, is a sector like ICT, which is meant to be productive, especially for the young people, is it well funded? Agriculture, you know, you had already talked about human resource development. That one you had already talked about. But make mention of...
let me start with my senior brother here. As the country knows, Honorable Nandala has been in Parliament for now how many years?
This is his fourth term.
Fourth term.
This is fifth.
Yes.
That is 20,
and you don't also want to change.
That is 25 years.
That's why people are calling that I must go high.
That now you have to want to go higher.
That's why information of finance is for...
Okay, yes.
You're interrupting my push on this guy. He has been there for 25 years.
Yeah.
He has not changed the budgeting system. He has not changed Parliament. And he expects Omara, who has been there, this is now the second year, to dramatically change things how he wants to make wonders. I think it's big and fair.
But Charles, I want to
and
say...
he's making the debate about me. I would want him to stop and say...
No, Mara, Paul, let me tell you. The truth is, these two last budgets have even taken another direction. I want you to compare the previous one. You will find that the budget now is taking... You get a budget committee also increasing a figure on its own, changing here, instead of reducing us and the law. And these are things we must realize. Me, I'm worried. This trend is very dangerous. And for me, why I thought Omara would be helpful, he was coming from standing. And when he went to budget committee, I said, you are going to help us. Kumbe.
Charles, I don't want this to be a person on personalities.
No, it shouldn't.
We have.
I agree. It shouldn't.
We have a presidential system in Uganda. The president of Uganda determines the budget ceiling. The allocation is done within the ministries. As I said before, the ministerial statements come from various ministers and go to the sectoral committees. What we do with Herbert and the team...
Herbert is not a member of budget.
Is harmonization.
He's a man of budget.
Is harmonization and consolidation. And then it's Parliament that approves. I don't want him to personalize the debate. Now, I think let me answer a few questions before I go into the main discussion.
Yeah, quickly, because time is going. I need us to...
What are the benefits? Quickly.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of this budget to the people of Uganda? Number one is that the salaries for teachers, science teachers, and UPDF have been increased.
The UPDF to what?
So they have been increased as a vote, as a block, almost going to 1 trillion shillings. So UPDF, their salaries have been increasing, and we have done the maths, and we are saying a private, by any level of imagination, should now be able to get about 800 or 1 million.
Okay.
And we'll do the numbers and work out with the CDF and see whether these numbers are coming through in this budget. The DPP and the team have got a tax waiver, just like the sister institutions, the judiciary. So the state prosecutors outside there thank this parliament because now you've got a tax waiver and you'll be able to get your full salaries, plus the increment. Funding to industrial parks, and that is the center, by the way, of the economy. So more industries we have, it is where the economy will grow. So there will be a lot of money going into certain areas, key areas in the, to build industrial parks. Domestic arrears, those who owe government money. Of course, the figure which has been audited by the Auditor General is 2.7 trillion. Government of Uganda has been able to provide 205 billion shillings to cater for domestic arrears. The city is shambolic. This parliament has given another 33 billion to KCCA to do the drainage and then also do some work on the roads. This additional money provided to these entities. Every district in Uganda now has got at least a bare minimum of 1 billion shillings to do the rural roads and the district roads. I think for the first time, by the way, in our history. Because for us in Otuke, we were getting 200 million shillings. So a billion shillings to the district to help us do the community roads, it is a commendable thing. 30 billion has been allocated to upgrade Health Center 2 and 3 and 4s across the country in different areas. And 50 billion also provided to Ministry of Works to do weather roads. These are pro-people things. I just want to mention them quickly.
50 billion.
50 billion additional on top of what we had given, the big amounts which was given. And then 29 billion given to Uganda Police to build infrastructure for our policemen. You have seen many of the buildings coming through from the media. It is not looking good. And then for the people of Lango, people of Teso, and people of Acholi, 50 billion shillings for cattle compensation. Hopefully, this money will be released in this coming financial year. Because being in the budget is one thing, and money being released is another. And to respond quickly to the question that was put to us by some of the people online, like the gentleman from Otuke, indeed, the Lira, Aloy, Otuke, Abim, Kotido Road is 187 kilometers. It's in President Museveni's manifesto for this 5-year period. This year, government policy has been that there will be no new roads that will be constructed in the country, apart from those...
This year or next year?
This financial year, rather, the coming one.
Yeah.
Except those ones which are already in the procurement, in the pipeline. So ours had not been in procurement, so it will not come through, but we will work so hard to making sure that this road is built, because it actually moves across almost 5-6 districts. It will open up our infrastructure for trade.
And the business.
So that was a key item from the public. But I think the most important thing, Charles, is that what we need to guard against, I think, as where I would agree with my honorable brother, senior brother Nandala, is that the debt has been increasing as much as the budget ceiling has been increasing. The tax revenue is not as growing as fast as it should be. So we just need to tame our appetite maybe for expenditure, because if we are not going to generate enough revenue, we have to be very careful about our debt to GDP ratio. Although, as of yesterday, not yesterday, today, we met the Minister of Finance and the Governor that the debt to GDP ratio is at 48.3%, which is below the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility, which is 53.1. That's the target we had set for ourselves. So at 48.3, there is still an element of sustainability. But the key issue would be, if we take this money, where do we invest it? I think that is fundamental. Because you have seen, I've given you the numbers, that we are only able to do about 14 billion in development expenditures, about 27% of that money. Now, time should come when we actually can do up to 40% of that budget, or 50-50 on development. That is only when we can run up and catch up. But otherwise, if we bring all the money for eating, for consumption, and we keep borrowing for consumption, then there is no way we will be able to attain a positive budget planning in the future. I think there has been an attempt to say that, time will come when our oil will help us. Oil is just going to give us $2 billion when we start extracting it. $2 billion is about what, 7.8
about
trillion?
7.4.
Yeah, so
currently,
now,
by current.
Yeah, that is what our oil revenue will give us every financial year. And we have to be very careful that we should not put our strength in the oil. That oil will come going to salvage us. But I think we should try our best to make sure we engage this money, put more money into private sector, into manufacturing, into value addition, and we increase exports. That's the only way we can survive. But I think borrowing continuously and increasing our budget is not the right way to go.
Okay. Let me first bring in Professor a bit. She has to weigh in, and then I come back to you that side.
Yeah, so I think what you've said is very, very important.
Yes.
But I think beyond the figures, we need to look at the people.
Yes.
And someone earlier asked, how did we get where we are? One of the things which actually has really spoiled the rural economy, and I'm happy in Ntungamo they work very well, but in many of our places, actually, the youth are not working. Of course, with the exception of northern Uganda, which went through 26 years of hell, that's a different matter. But in other areas, it has really been the monetization of elections.
Yes.
Yes.
And part of the things which is driving these high budgets, regardless of income, is the very high level of transactional politics. Okay?
Yeah.
The transaction politics is there at the lower level. Those of you MPs, you know what you go through. I was told if you don't have 50 billion saved in an account, don't even dream about being an MP. What is that money doing? You're buying voters. And that behavior goes on right up to the top. So it's very transactional. What are you giving us and what do we earn by supporting certain positions? And that, in a way, does not build the economy. Because people's appetite, Honorable Nandala, is not actually just at the top. The appetite goes on all the way down. And at the end of the day, for the local people, for the younger people, this has been the greatest killer. Because they are used to money coming very easily, very instantly. They are used to holding someone and transforming in a position of authority. And the danger then that causes is politicians like them, who should be in the community giving direction to the people. Okay, if you're very rich like the three, but if you don't have enough resources like the three, you just shun the constituency. You're voted in, you just don't appear for anything. Yeah. If you're lucky, maybe you appear again to be voted in.
Number one is this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's very rich, that one, so you can't even talk.
You can't
so,
this one, you don't
so basically, that's the kind of thing. So at the end of the day, the
Honorable Nandala, when they say you're very rich, say we thank God.
Yes.
Thank God.
Amen.
We thank God.
I'm not me complaining. I say I'm rich at heart.
So at the end of the day, the kind of politics we have propagated have denied people leadership. Because they are happy with the pecs you give them as they are voting you in. But then when people shy away from them, then they're not there to guide them on maybe how well to use some of these processes. So the monetization of things is a very big challenge. The tax exemptions would actually be a good thing. And indeed, when PDM was being fronted, we thought it would do what Honorable Nandala and group are saying, that they would create opportunities through having the old things we used to call the societies, and then there was that, and then there's a dispensary, and then, so it would be like a microcosm of services. We don't know how it took the direction of free money. Although we also don't complain because those in civil society like the Godbars have always been arguing that the policies were targeting
Sarah,
the top.
You are not in civil society?
I am, but more but like Godbar. So previously the critique has been that most of government planning is looking at the big guys, the big planners, and it had excluded the economy. So probably PDM was an attempt of going to the lower person. But unfortunately, maybe the model it's being implemented is what is problematic. And I think another thing we need to also be cognizant of what is happening is we took a turn of a neoliberal model where we really got government out of development, except by securing security and microeconomic things. The danger with that, again, is that you end up finding that unless people are organized, you really cannot get them into development. It goes to what Honorable Herbert has said, that if you have 4 children and you leave each one to do what they want, in the past, actually, people would be organized to all farm. If you were found not in the right place at the right time, there were penalties. Yeah. But you know what? The LC5, I think, of one constituency in Massacre tried, who tried to whip people in line. It cost him an election. Yes. And no other politician is going to take that kind of risk. So we need to move, I think, from the populist politics. But as we shine the torch above, we may also need to shine the torch at the local level. Because these policies, the decentralization, the assumption that the people at the local level feel for the people, in many places it has been a shock. Yeah. They are actually the biggest vehicles for denying, grabbing people's land, the biggest vehicles for corrupt tendencies. Okay, you can argue that the money they are playing with is less than the appetite at the top. But it is still a problem because these things percolate all the way through. So for this budget to really speak to the people, some of those things need to be addressed beyond just throwing to people money. I think that's what I thought I needed to interject, but also to show these people that they are partly responsible for the kind of monetization and transactional behavior you find in villages, which is very destructive.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Professor,
just a smaller thing.
Thanks a lot, Professor, for saying that boldly. And I think that On top of what she has raised, right now we are going to now start doing the wrap-up because we have about 10 minutes. We have been given about 10 or 12 more minutes to just do a wrap-up. Way forward and how to look at this. Two things. One is that you MPs actually are part of the bigger problem. If there is a problem in government, you MPs are part of it. Why? Because you benefit from whatever is going on. That's one. And Ugandans know that, so you should not all run away from it. Opposition and government.
They have actually given up on MPs.
Exactly, exactly. Including opposition, Honorable Nandala. That one we have to tell you. Look, you have talked about, and rightly so, that you are given very short time to scrutinize the budget. But you have almost a whole year. Immediately the budget has been raised, you fall back into many times non-entities. You know, things that are not as pertinent to Ugandans. Then and yet you have an opportunity to start, even if it is through a private member's bill, to say to government that can we reform the way we budget? And you discuss it. If it is the policy, if it is a law, then you bring it up so that minus the budget period itself, you discuss that.
Charles, can I respond quickly?
And do you do that?
Number one is that...
Start by asking, by answering, do you do that or you don't?
Yeah, we do.
When did you do it?
By the way, the private members bill is actually now more than what government is coming.
No, I'm not talking about general private members bill. I've just said private members bill as one of the approaches if that is what it takes. Yes. But that you only think about the budget when it is time for government to bring it, and by the time government brings it, it is their product. It is their initiation. They will give you a short time because there are timelines in law which they have to meet.
There's a lot of private members' bills that are coming to kind of redirect the manner in which government is operating, especially looking at the government expenditure, for example. There's a one member of parliament who is bringing a private members bill to downsize parliament itself. That is that proactive?
That one I know the opposition will shoot it down first.
There's a member of parliament. There's a member of parliament who is bringing a private
because who
bill.
will want to cut themselves? You know the story of the monkey and the forest.
No.
They benefit from the forest. How can they cut down the forest?
There's a private members bill, Charles.
Yes.
There's a private members bill which is coming to basically cut down government expenditures on allocation of vehicles. Just making sure that there are specific people, based on order of presidents, who should receive those big fuel guzzlers. Not everybody. So that we cut down the cost of public administration. And we release money to be spent on other things. And it's being done by private members, through private members' bills.
But Paul,
yes,
instead of telling us that rumor, tell us.
That's a threat.
No. Okay. In this financial year, which we are completing, which private members' bill came, and they were to cut down the expenditure, the public expenditure, and they were debated and passed.
The 1 year was a learning period. You remember?
Remember, Nathan has been there for 20 years.
Even Nathan is learning.
I didn't want to point a finger at him like the way he was doing for me.
22 years.
I didn't want to point a finger at him because 78% of the members of parliament are new.
No,
so 1 year they were learning.
83%.
Maybe I should.
83. So you can imagine.
I should use this opportunity to basically, for me, you are our MPs. I want to put forward these 4 proposals that I want you guys to consider if you think they are tenable.
All right.
The cutting public spending is one. Nathan talked about it. If you guys can say in this next coming financial year, there are going to be those bills, and they're going to be focused on cutting public expenditure. Because for me, even the budget committee would have done us a favor as a country if in your report you said this is where we want to cut money, this is where we want to cut wastage. But that is number one. Number two. I think the NDP has did a good job to say we are going to do programs. Yeah? But the shift in terms of the mindset in both government and the parliament is not happening as fast as it should be. I want to propose that the money, the allocation of money needs to go to the regions. That all these programs.
You want regional government or what?
No. I'm talking about building the pillars.
Local governments.
Building not even local governments. You see, these districts, they are not viable economic entities. No. I want, because I have been to Teso, for example. You go to Teso and you see the level of poverty across, and I'm like, no. Actually, there should be money allocated to Teso to be able to build the economy of Teso.
There used to be a minister for Teso Affairs.
Money is not about Teso economy.
You need to understand this. Yeah. However much government will put money in an area, if people do not work, it will not reduce poverty.
But you see,
you either take it or not.
But
what happens is this. Now let me tell you, what happens is this, is that money will be allocated to that area. It will be eaten by the people in charge of that money. There is nobody who can put money in your pocket for you to get out of poverty.
But when it is at the center, isn't it eaten?
Yes, but then when it's eaten at the center, when it's eaten at the region, what we are looking at.
My point, Herbert, is to say, I am an investor in Angkor. Yeah? Instead of looking for money from Kampala, from Bank of Uganda, I want to be looking for those local leaders to say, I need money to invest. If money has been allocated, it should be there. When it is in Kampala, I don't know who to ask. So I think that we need to change the architecture of the budget so that the people who are supposed to be accessing budget resources know where to find it and who to hold accountable.
That money is there under microfinance support center,
let me tell
which
you,
is in all these regions.
No, let me tell you. Because I have been looking for money.
And I got, if
you go to microfinance support center. They give you a checklist of 21 things they are looking for.
Yes.
I'm a businessman.
Maybe if you say that you want free money, be put in a region, you can come and...
I think you are missing my point.
But
microfinance support center.
What kind of structure? Who will run it? The structure for that money.
But who is running PDM money? Haven't you created a structure? So if you did, you'll create the structure.
But I think, Charles, what Godba is raising, and I wanted to concur with what you have raised. Do we audit the budget we have passed?
Yes.
How has it performed? That's a very fundamental question we should do. And if we are auditing the budget, we're only waiting for the accounts of Water General. When they come, which we're not using.
Yeah.
And you can see here, Omara was saying, no, we use those accounts. If they had used them, it would have been the basis to really think, are we really going in the right direction? That's a fundamental. The one thing we want to ask in the committee of budget is to audit the budget or ask your committees to do so. Now, why you are saying that you came in and got us there? When you came to Parliament, you arrived on the same day. You were too high there. We had to leave you. And now you have dropped, now you are coming to ask for a raise. They have asked a question of men and women in uniform. I want to give you an example. You people travel. You have seen in America, they said here, food for the men and the women in uniform or ex-soldiers is at 50% discount. You understand? There are shops they go, you are allowed with tax-free. But where are their hours? That's why you see, you will give me 1 million, but you are going in the same market where the other man was money is going. That's in many governments, even America, UK, whatever, even Kenya here. Army shops exist, police shops. Okay, what have you done? And that's where you would have looked about. You are saying, for me today, I've agreed with some of the members here, which I want to tell you, the member, you of budget. We are doing what we call incremental budget. What does incremental budget mean? This year's, last year was 100 billion. This ministry, now this year we say add them 120 billion. Now the budget inefficiency or budgeting of that ministry is hidden. But if it was like, you have talked of NDP's programs. Why don't we use activity-based budgeting? You start from zero, budget and
start from zero,
and whatever. But now when you do incremental, we have budgeted for borrowers 100 borrowers this year. Okay, 2 years ago. None of us has audited that the money we give for balls of 100 did it reach?
Were delivered.
Where they haven't. But you are going, so now we now want 200 boreholes. The 100 have not reached, you're adding 200. So why I am here, I want just give simple advice. And this is what you should do. Taiwa, you should be interested. The budget controller in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, is a professional accountant. He's appointed by the president, approved by Parliament. Then the president, okay, nominated first, approved, then appoints. The purpose is that a person who knows how to manage a budget is a professional accountant. Not this economist. I'm an economist, but I'm better because I have accounts. And that's why I'm saying to the people of the institute, take your space. And of course, maybe that's the reason you see me standing for councilship of the institute. You must take the lead of this economic budgeting process in Uganda must be taken by accountants.
But you're not
now I'm going to give you 1 minute each. We need to wind up. Unfortunately, I like the discussion, no doubt. Very good discussion. I'm learning a lot as well, and I'm sure the viewer out there. But unfortunately, we have to end. So I'm going to start with Professor. Way forward, as we gear up to start next financial year, which is supposed to be an important phase in government running, because minus government running an effective budget, we cannot talk about transformation, which I'll be lying to ourselves. So what way forward from your perspective, Professor?
Yeah, thank you, Charles. We are in a catch-22 situation. The dilemma is big. The population is very young. This time not the country. The population is young, and that population needs to be invested into. 48.9% of that population is under 15 years, so they are largely children.
It's tough.
So this country is in a tough situation. But if we don't do anything about it, we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Because with all the immunizations and health improvements, these people are growing. So we need to invest in them the way the budget has good aspirations. We need to ensure that the aspirations there are effectively implemented. If we leave it on paper and we talk very well and it looks very good and it does not trickle down and it is swindled along the way, there's going to be a problem because services will not go down, that population will grow, and in future they will take out the minority. Thank you.
And the minority are here in this room.
That side, the three of them.
Yeah. So
Godwin, your way forward.
So I believe that for the last 3 decades, we have tried to deliver development from Kampala. And I think Kampala will not deliver transformation. We have to change the delivery model. Because even those young people that Sarah is talking about, they are actually there. In the villages, you find all of them, you see them all through. We have to change the model. And even creating work means that we are challenging those people who are down there with these people to work. That's why I had another, even my other proposal is to say, this thing of revenues, where are we getting the revenues from? I would still require URA to say, I want you to report regionally. Where are we getting the revenues? Each region must tell us, what are you contributing to the budget? Because that will impose an accountability responsibility on each of these regions.
I hope you will not say contribute the same amount.
No. By the way, it doesn't matter.
Because some of the regions will say, but we are extremely poor, we cannot contribute.
By the way, for me, it doesn't even matter the amount you are reporting. What I need to know is to say,
accountability.
I need to know Bunyoro is contributing so much, and therefore how do we improve the investments to be able to deliver more from Bunyoro?
I agree.
Finally, I want to challenge these guys, the MPs. Because I think we need to help URA. URA is suffering. In the process, it is making us suffer. Yeah? Because you see, I've been engaging with URA people, and I tell them the number of email messages that you get from URA, they are overwhelming. It's like
SMSs.
it's like you have to create, now you have to employ a staff to respond to emails from URA. We need to help URA deliver on the job we're asking them to do. So I want to propose for the MPs, let's declare a tax compliance month. Yeah? At the end of the financial year. Let's declare tax compliance month. We find the first day. We get the president and his cabinet. They file their tax returns. We get the second week. We have all of you MPs. You file your tax returns. You get a third week. We get all these
Civil
public sector
servants.
officials, the civil servants. We need to know. I am very, very disappointed, by the way, that you are increasing the public servants that are exempted from paying tax. We should pay our public servants. They should pay tax. Every citizen in this country should be able to pay tax. And then we have the last week of the month. Then all of us, all the regulars, we file our returns. We begin to see that all of us are contributing to the tax. So I want to challenge you as MPs and say, because if you do that, you create a certain level of confidence in the tax system. And that could help URA so that they don't have to really run hard and have to go to be put in a situation where they have to be pushing everybody, because then we are creating voluntary compliance. So that's the challenge that I would want to leave with you guys.
I hope they take it. Way forward, Honorable Mara. If you want to respond by taking the challenge.
Charles, I want to encourage the citizens outside there that our economy is growing. Our economy is growing.
We are not feeling it.
By the way, let me give you a quick one. In 1985, our GDP was only $3.5 billion.
With what population?
Now we are $46 billion.
What was the population then?
Then we calculate per capita.
Let me continue with my thought process. So the economy, the GDP has grown. Our taxes have increased. It used to be 13 trillion, 14, 16. Now we are touching 24 trillion and going to 29.3 trillion. So we are making...
are you envisaging a scenario where they shouldn't have grown?
No, I am actually looking at a scenario that basically URA is making a lot of attempts to increase our tax base and the effective tax that is being collected. The only thing is that what you've said is every citizen should try and pay. We should pay our taxes. Whoever is supposed to pay tax, let's pay those taxes. I think this budget...
That means you've taken the challenge.
Yes, we've taken the challenge. This budget, as much as it's a deficit budget, it's going to help us to achieve some progress if it is implemented properly. I am happy that at least in this budget, the next financial year, at least 27% of that budget is going towards development expenditure, something that we have always cried for. So now, if it is properly implemented, it is capital investment that really begins to grow the GDP, not this one where we keep on consuming from a day-to-day basis. And we must also continue to focus, like today we, both Finance Committee and the Committee on National Economy sat together to consider a loan for government. And most of these loans are now concessional loans, which are coming from outside. That helps now to control the level of debt that we have. That is easy to pay, and it's a long term. It's a 10-year period with a 5-year grace period. So let us be optimistic. In terms of the structure of our budget, I think the conversation we're having is a good one. We should continue to engage the president. I remember when we engaged the president on the shambolic road infrastructure across the country, he agreed with our proposition that at least every district should have $1 billion shillings in terms of road maintenance. And that money has been provided in the next year's budget. So the engagement with the president as the Minister of Finance is important, and it will help us to achieve quite a number of milestones. It is not, let me repeat this, it's not on the basis of one individual MP. Whether you are an international banker like me, you're not going to come and change the whole horses like Honorable Mandela Mafabi. You can only try to influence them, and they are also big-headed. So it's going to take us time for us now to have a point of convergence where, for example, government has adopted program-based budgeting, but the way we are operating is still sectoral. And I would want to agree with him that we now need to adopt activity-based budgeting so that we know which activity we are going to achieve. And the numbers, Goldberg, that you've talked about in terms of employment opportunities, we should be able to have that data if it is activity-based. But this incremental thing does not help. But there's a commander-in-chief, there is a chief executive called General Kaguta Yoweri Museveni, who is running this country, and the engagement with him from time to time is important.
Thank you. Honorable Nandala.
I want to start that I am one of those who files my returns on time.
Very good.
I pay my taxes.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, I'm in the large taxpayers.
Me too, I pay.
Now, too, URA is under pressure. Like you see, they want them to get 29 trillion. That means they must squeeze even money from stones, from where they know. So I think URA is under pressure, and we just pray for them. And this one also I have to sympathize.
Pray for them.
With my friend Ramadan, the PSST.
Yeah.
I saw him coming. He was a bit looking better now with this pressure. I think he's aging very fast because of this pressure, whereby they make estimates of expected income so high, they don't achieve, while the expenditure is high, and they demand on expenditure. The moment somebody says, I need, my budget is 120 billion, I need my 120 billion.
Yeah.
Now, because the budgets are not being funded fully, it means we have authorized government to get debt. So debt means approved domestic debt, approved external debt, and this is growing. As it's growing, it's making the economy shrink, and this is very dangerous. The way forward is one, to cut on the appetite, and if the son of Kaguta can listen to us, he's the first person to cut on appetite, because I'm told his clothing per day is 1 million, one not. That's very dangerous. I don't know what he's buying. But that's put aside, that's more, but this classified expenditure, I heard somebody is getting 36 billion on value addition for coffee. I never saw it in Bugisu. So what we want to do is this appetite should go down. But I want to state that in the last law we have just passed in the taxes, they have said everybody who has these taxes support due by 30th June 2023 and is able to pay them by 31st December, I think 31st December 2023.
We increase by 9 months.
For 9 months?
Yes.
I don't think there was increment. But whatever the case, you will not be paying penalties and interest. I think this is one of the compliance things which has come up, which is good to allow people to come and pay. But also we ask URA to also be effective in refunds. When somebody has made his excess tax, you refund instead of this person going to the bank to borrow and go down. Otherwise, we must tighten our belts. I want to tell everybody, tighten your belt.
It's getting worse.
Is the belt there? Is the belt there?
Do they all have belts?
If there are no belts, like for us in the village, get the banana
and fiber,
banana rope, and tie yourself and we move on.
What a way, to end. That is worrying.
No, it's the reality. It's the reality.
It's the reality.
It's the reality.
Okay.
We shall move into your homes.
Honorable Mara says, let's be hopeful. Honorable Nandala says, let's tighten our belts. Honorable Howard, finally.
Yeah, thank you. We have not lost hope, but way forward, can this budget have an impact? One, if we really have this money and spend it in investment for purposes of generating more revenue. Then I think we can grow. But however, this one also comes to hand in hand with mass production. Now, why I insist on mass production is that we need to have some change in, some reforms and changes in policy. I will give an example. Decentralization has had its problems, but we used to have administrative bylaws and which governed our people in the villages, and people complied. And as a result, people observed hygiene, people had Burunjubwansi, and so many other things. And these people made them work. Before they removed graduated tax, people would work to pay graduated tax. And in the course of working for paying graduated tax, they would also earn. And they would be productive. So we need to have some reforms. We get out of this laissez-faire business where everybody is left to do whatever he wants at any time he wants. If you don't want to work, you stay there. We need to come out of that. 3, there's something which we have not touched on revenue mobilization. This Uganda's GDP is now expected to be 206 trillion. But who is composing of this GDP?
60% is within Kampala.
The people composing this GDP are very few individuals and companies. Now, these very few individuals and companies are the ones supposed to pay tax. Now, the tax ratio is still at 13%, projected to be 14%. But the few individuals who are holding this GDP are good at tax planning.
Tax exemption.
Now, when we talk of tax planning, we are looking at the...
Some water?
Sorry.
The budget committee doesn't want the point.
He's making very important points.
Thank you. So the few people who are holding... Sorry, what's
That's Omara. Paul is on my mind.
You know, in Africa, there is nothing that happens without a cause.
What we're trying to bring up is that the more these 60% who are controlling the GDP have the best tax consultants, have the tax planning. They are multinationals.
Yes.
They are the ones who have more contact in means of finance. They are the ones who get tax exemptions. They are the ones who are influencing the taxation system.
They are the ones who are able to repatriate.
And all the repatriation is going, is even making it worse with a lot of foreign exchange controls. All the money got.
So we are having a challenge.
Are you better now?
Yes, I'm better now.
Okay.
I hope I've not.
That's the point. Because we are saying, URA is talking of informal businesses trying to look for smaller people. But that's not where the problem is. A smaller person running a business, even if he makes any money, he is going to consume it. Therefore, he'll be paying consumptive taxes. But this rich man, this multinational, this big company, which is able to do tax planning, which can avoid taxes, which can evade taxes, which can get tax exemption, is where the problem is. So, I think Uganda Revenue Authority and government should make a change in the revenue mobilization strategy. See how best can they outplan those people who are good at tax planning. When you go to Muyindi or a Chinese, I go there, they normally ask me, do you want a receipt with VAT or with no VAT? Now, I ask myself, why? I say a receipt with VAT. They write me a receipt, I pay. Now, somebody else comes, he gets a receipt without VAT. So, URA should be able to establish that if it has information and data on all what was imported and entered the country, how does this person pay or sell without charging VAT? And that's why we have a big problem. So
you will say that the titles got rotten.
but that's why URA should come in. So I think way forward, we can improve on our revenues if we make some reviews in the tax, in the tax revenue strategy, on top of trying to ensure that Ugandans work.
Thank you very much, Honorable Herbert, for ending it. Guess you will be better. Thank you very much, Honorable Nandala. Thank you, Honorable Paul. Thank you so much, Council Godber and Professor Sarah Sali. Thank you very much to everybody out there who sat, in your different sitting rooms to watch us and to follow this program. Without you, it cannot be of much value, and we want to thank you from this side. we want to say goodbye, good night, and God bless all of you. God bless Uganda.